As we continue this morning, the book is Unraveled. Josh Blackman is the author. Obamacare, Religious Liberty, and Executive Power. The things that hopefully we will be saying goodbye to in quick fashion here in the next month. 55 KRC, the talk station. It is 8:30. 55 KRC, the talk station. Gary Jeff in for Brian Thomas. Great to be with you on the first day of winter. Our guest is Josh Blackman, an associate professor of law at the South Texas College of Law, specializing in constitutional law. He's also the author of critically acclaimed books like Unprecedented, The Constitutional Challenge to Obamacare, back in 2013. And the new book is Unraveled, Obamacare, Religious Liberty, and Executive Power, which, again, is on shelves now for you to check out. As this current POTUS leaves office, he does leave a legacy behind. What will that legacy be? Interested to hear what Josh Blackman has to say, although I have a feeling I know what Mr. Blackman has to say on that. You've twice testified before the House Judiciary Committee on the constitutionality of executive action on immigration and health care. It's great to have you on the program, Josh. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So tell me about, first off, tell me about your chance to testify before the House Judiciary Committee and what ultimately was decided there.
Well, it was a very cool experience. As your listeners probably know, President Obama has taken a number of executive actions with respect to immigration that have been flatly illegal. The law says do X. The president says, I'm not going to do it because I don't like it. And the House of Representatives held a few hearings discussing this, and I was very honored to be able to attend and explain why his actions are unlawful. What came of it? The election of Donald Trump. The House by itself wasn't able to stop the president because they didn't have the votes to actually do anything about it. But I think with the election of 2016, the new president will likely rescind or significantly scale back a number of those unconstitutional policies, which from my perspective is a positive outcome from the purpose of the Constitution.
Well, Donald J. Trump has pledged to do that. He said he's going to be very, very busy on his first day as president, rescinding executive orders by executive orders. It's interesting that President Obama has just given Mr. Trump the advice of not relying on executive orders.
Yeah, I saw that. This is more of a do as I say, not as I do approach. President Obama boasts that in his first 2 years, he got lots of bills passed. Dodd-Frank, Obamacare, the bailout. What people don't remember is at the time, the Democrats had 60 votes in the Senate and a huge majority in the House. President Obama was only able to pass laws when basically everyone in Congress had a Democrat majority. Once he lost that supermajority, his ability to pass laws failed, and that gridlock spurred him to look to executive action to bypass the process. Now here he is lecturing Trump, saying, "Oh, don't go do what I did. Do it differently." I think that's a little rich.
Well, yeah. Obamacare, which is, again, was a major part of the campaign, of the repeal and replace. And it looks like the House and the Senate say they're going to be working on that as soon as the new session begins in January. But they also are saying they can't just – that is a prickly pear politically, just pulling out the rug of people who have had health care insurance under Obamacare who would not without the precepts of the law being in place necessarily. So they're in a really a weird situation politically, I think, don't you, to now just say to, 15 or 16 million people, sorry, you don't have insurance anymore. You're going to have to find something else.
This is the million-dollar question. The number is actually much smaller than 15 or 16 million. A lot of those people who are on Medicaid, a lot of those people already had insurance, could afford it otherwise. A lot of these people don't even benefit from Obamacare because it's too expensive. But there's a number, maybe 5 or 7 million people who do rely on this closely.
Well, what about the people on Medicaid specifically?
Well, the people on Medicaid wouldn't necessarily be affected if the ACA is repealed in this fashion. There'll be other methods that states can use to provide care for those same people.
All right.
For example, block grants and other approaches. But with respect to the people on the Obamacare exchanges, there would be a fairly significant change in how much people are paying for their insurance. And Republicans have suggested there will be some sort of transitional period where it won't be repealed tomorrow, but will be repealed at some point in the next 2 to 3 years. They're still working out the kinks of how many delays and transitional devices there are. But I don't think that whatever happens is going to leave Republicans, they're going to leave people in the lurch. The bigger question is, will insurance companies want to continue working on the Obamacare exchanges if they know it's going to be dismantled, unraveled, to the title of my book? As it stands now, insurance companies are not making any profit, and they're fleeing these changes.
Yep.
That pace may increase depending what happens in the next few months.
So tell me about this. This is interesting. I'm reading your bio here. Tell me about Fantasy SCOTUS, the Internet's premier Supreme Court fantasy league.
Oh, absolutely. So for the last 9 years, I've run a prediction market on the Supreme Court where experts make predictions on how the justices will decide each and every case. And we have a very high accuracy rate, almost 80%. I'll take those odds to Vegas anytime. We're also running a market right now on who will the next justice be. Who will Mr. Trump pick as the replacement for Justice Scalia? And we have thousands of votes, people from across the spectrum of who they think it's going to be. This is a very useful tool. Fantasy SCOTUS is something I've developed with my colleagues at Let's Predict.
So do you have a draft?
Well, you don't draft justices, but you do pick who Trump will be, who Trump will select. So we have Trump's short list of about 20 people, and then we can vote for who their top pick is.
Well, who's your top pick, Josh?
I have two that I think are most likely going to be selected. One is Judge Dan Sykes from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Another is Judge Bill Pryor. He's from Birmingham, Alabama, on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. These are both names that Trump mentioned in a debate about a year ago. And these are both very well-respected judges who I think would sit well in the Supreme Court.
All right, fantastic. Well, in the book Unraveled, there are three things that you highlight: Obamacare, religious liberty, and executive power. How has the Obama administration eroded religious liberty with their policies?
This is a really important discussion. The ACA by itself doesn't really have that much to do with religious liberty, but the Obama administration has interpreted it to require all employers to provide contraceptive coverage for their employees. There's an extensive litigation over this involving Hobby Lobby, which is a religious craft store, involving the Little Sisters of the Poor. This is an order of nuns that didn't want to have to give their employees the morning after pill, which is quite understandable. And this litigation is really drawn to a head because the Obama administration has insisted that workers get this covered seamlessly through the employer's plan. And the employers said, well, if this is so important, why can't you just put on a different policy? Don't bring me along for this. As with many things today, it'll be up to the Trump administration to decide how to handle these really delicate issues because the Obama administration has less than a month to go.
Yeah, what about, for example, the woman who, because of her beliefs, didn't want to do a wedding cake for a same-sex couple and said, love you guys, but I just can't do it. And the courts have, fined her and all these other things. I guess that plays into it too, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's not an Obamacare-related issue.
No.
This is the broader scheme of how the Supreme Court decisions concerning same-sex marriage will affect religious liberty more broadly. And the issue your listeners should think about with the baker is not only that of religious liberty, but free speech. Whether you think about it or not, making a cake is an artistic act. You're designing it, you're making it with colors and shapes and design. So you actually have a free speech interest. And generally, people can be compelled to engage in speech. I can't tell you, hey, Mr. Radio host, go say this on your radio show. You say, absolutely not. That's not what the government's role is. So there's, I think, a legitimate question about whether people can be forced to engage in this form of expression by making a cake against their will. The courts, however, have not seemed fit to rule in that fashion, but eventually that issue will probably trickle up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, Josh Blackman, our guest again, Forbes magazine's list for the 30 under 30 in law and policy and so much more. I can't believe that they've actually published you in the Washington Post and New York Times. They must have hid those commentaries somewhere, didn't they, Josh?
All the way in the back, all the way in the back corner.
That's what I thought. The book is Unraveled: Obamacare, Religious Liberty, Executive Power. Blackmore, and I will say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take a break and come back. Gary Jeffin for Brian Thomas this morning. Westside Jim recaps the show next on 55 KRC, the talk station. So I understand